It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth, financial literacy educator and speaker, entrepreneur, and chairman of the board of a bank information. Take charge of your financial future with your personal bank. Now here's Ference Toth.
Welcome to the Your Personal Bank Show. And I got to tell you, if you missed the last show, I was pretty fired up. And it was, I titled the show, I Don't Understand Why. And I did discuss a lot of things about what's going on with our country and how I think it's going to affect our retirement, our money, our economy, and all that type of stuff going forward. And it's just a lot of practical, common sense things that I just don't understand why are going on or why they're not being denounced. And if you haven't listened to it or you missed it, I strongly encourage you to go to yourpersonalbank.com, listen to the show, pass it on to the others. In fact, you can go to any of the previously recorded shows anytime you like and listen to them. Their topics are there. Encourage you to do that. And then the other thing I was going to say is, by the way, I get a lot of feedback from folks and people contacting me, sending me messages, emails, and all that. I really appreciate it. The encouragement, the questions are great. If you have a question that you want to answer, like I said, reach out to me at yourpersonalbank.com. If you just want me to answer it on the air, that's fine. I can do that too. It gives me an idea of what it is you're wanting to learn. You know, the last show I didn't talk much about your personal bank at all, about how it works. And I'm going to try to touch on that some more for those that you missed it, because this is such a powerful tool. And it works in so many different variety of ways. And I'm just going to give you an example of a situation just this past week. So I'm talking to this attorney. She owns her own practice, very intelligent person. And she's done well for herself financially, survived COVID well, all that good stuff. But she's still not satisfied. She's got some monies in the markets, mostly IRA type of stuff. She's got a little bit of rental real estate. And it was interesting because I shared with her, she was in like early 50s. And the thing is, she was frustrated because she wanted to have some money, say, to invest in real estate, get some tax deductions and things like that going forward. And, she had met with her financial advisor and I shared with her some ideas, which I'm going to share with you here shortly. And it was interesting because she goes, it's interesting. I talked to my financial advisor yesterday and all she did was just tell me to put more money in my IRA. And I said, here's the challenge you have. I'm not saying you shouldn't put any money in your IRA, but it's a SEP IRA. She doesn't have the opportunity for a 401k with any kind of company match. I even get this question a lot of times from entrepreneurs or self-employed people. Should I do a 401k or SEP IRA? And I say, well, it's because my friends are telling me I should do that. My first question always is, well, are you working for a company that they're providing a match? And if the answer is no, one of the main benefits, let's be real, about a 401k is the company's matching funds. So that's free money. My gosh, always take free money, right? Now, the second benefit, of course, is the tax deferral. But you got to think about that. And you always hear about that mantra, tax deferral, tax deferral, tax deferral. And people just do it without thinking or without looking at the alternatives. See, here's the thing. Is tax deferral always the best course of action? Well, the answer obviously is no. And what I find when I dig into someone's situation, their income, their finances, various things like that, oftentimes deferring taxes is probably the worst thing they could do. I'm going to explain. The first question you have to answer in terms of should you defer, it's a question of should you defer your taxes now or pay them later. It's called the principle of the seed or the harvest. In other words, should you pay your taxes on the seed or should you pay them at the harvest? And it's funny, I ask this question all the time. I used to ask it when I did workshops all the time. It's one of my favorite questions to ask. And invariably, I would get the answer, well, the seed. And I said, isn't that interesting? Because I previously would ask how many people in the room had an IRA or 401k? And most of the hands would go up. And I said, well, is that interesting? And how many had Roths? Very much fewer, typically. And I said, it's interesting. You answered you think you should pay the tax on the seed, yet you're doing the opposite. Why? Now, I already said, first of all, one of the main exceptions to the rules is a 401k where you're getting a company match. Oh my gosh, that's free money. Take the match. In other words, figure out how much they're matching and don't do anything over that. In fact, I was talking to another gentleman this past week also, who we were having that discussion, and he even said, I'm putting in more than that. I said, then what you're doing in our industry is often referred to as you're creating a ticking tax time bomb. He kind of stopped a minute, laughed, said, I see your point. In other words, the principle of the seed and the harvest is this. The seed is typically a small amount of money, right? The harvest, in other words, you put the money away, let it grow. Hopefully it grows over time so you have more, and then you take it out in retirement. That's the harvest, right? Now, if the taxes were exactly the same level, it's pretty obvious the answer would be the seed. You'd want to pay taxes on a lesser amount of money. Now, I get there's the argument. Some people say, well, if I don't get taxed on it, I can let it grow. Okay, I understand that. But here's the other point you have to consider. What if taxes are higher when you take them out? In other words, in this day and age, with the government that we currently have, the administration that we have, and everything that's going on, do you believe taxes will be higher or lower in the future? That's a tough one. Now, the thing is, the answer I get overwhelmingly, and I think more and more so, is, well, higher. I mean, look at the government debt. Look at all the money they're printing, all the money they borrowed. Somehow, there's a day of reckoning, and one of the main ways to get out of that is raise taxes. They can inflate their way out of it. I understand that. They can spend less. And that one always that's a laugh, because I don't care who's been in control of Washington in the last several decades. They're all spending more, aren't they? So the thing is, there's a very good likelihood the taxes are going to be higher in the future. Therefore, your whole premise of deferring them now to kick the can down the road, per se, and pay them on the harvest in retirement, well, the whole premise is defeated then, isn't it? Even if you were able to grow, you likely defeated the whole purpose if you have to pay more taxes when you take it out. And the biggest problem with it all is this. You just don't know. In other words, there's absolutely no way, it's impossible to predict what tax rates are going to be a few years down the road even, much less 5, 10, 15, 20, or 30 years even. It's impossible to predict. So you can't plan for it accordingly, can you? Isn't it just better at least to have a portion of it just set aside? You pay the tax up front, let it grow income tax free the rest of your life. I mean, that's why Roths are so popular and why so many people do Roth conversions, because they're literally taking a traditional IRA type of or 401k and converting it to a Roth, paying the tax now and let it grow tax free for life. Well, guess what, folks? The personal bank does the same thing. In essence, you're accomplishing the same thing. But on top of that, see, with the Roth, here's the other little catch. Here's the question you have to answer. Who created the Roth IRA, by the way? Congress. Now, because Congress created the Roth IRA, do you think they can change the rules in the future of Roth IRAs? The answer is actually yes, absolutely. Just as we cannot predict future income tax rates or brackets or anything like that, for that matter, we also cannot predict what the future changes to any traditional or Roth IRAs may be. There were significant changes after 0809 that happened in other countries, their equivalents of IRAs in England and England actually, all throughout Europe and many countries. There were many discussions about it here in the States. There were some changes made, but for the most part, it was kept pretty similar. The thing is, we can't predict, can we? And it goes back to what I talked about in the last show. And again, go to yourpersonalbank.com if you missed it. You're counting on a government to do the right thing, or the thing that'll benefit you. And the question is, will they? And I don't care where you stand politically. You can't predict what they're going to do, can you? You have no control over that. All right? Why not? Why give up that kind of control is my point. Why give up that level of control, hoping that and counting on their set of rules in place that are in place now will still be there, or the tax rates that are in place now will still be there or relatively similar? Are you willing to count on that for your retirement? I can tell you I'm not. Because if you're wrong, it's devastating. Absolutely devastating. I've seen it firsthand. You see, what I want you to understand is take back control of your money, or at least a portion of it. Take a portion and create a tax-free bucket. Take a portion that's not subject to the rules of the IRA, 401ks, Roths, that whole world. Get it out of there. Why be subject to their rules? See, you have options. It's not the only option out there. Take advantage of those options so that you still have options down the road if and when the rules do change, or the tax rates change, or whatever. See, one thing I try to do for folks is I want to give them options. The more options we have, the more flexibility we have. And yes, I've worked with some clients for over a couple of decades and helped them through getting through to retirement and in retirement and all that good stuff. I was just talking to one of them today, in fact, longtime client of mine. And she's been retired for a little while now. And frankly, is doing great. Her money keeps growing. Her taxes, she doesn't have tax on it. She has control of her money. She has liquidity whenever she needs it. Her money still grows, and when you access it through the bank line of credit, you're getting positive arbitrage, because remember, the dividends with the personal bank policies are paying more than the interest being charged by the banks. So even when she spends money to supplement her retirement, she's still earning interest on some interest on that money. So her money still continues to grow, which means you have more to spend. And isn't that the whole point? Having options and make sure your money doesn't run out are two of the biggest keys you could think of for retirement, and eliminating unnecessary risk like future tax risk. Stay tuned in the next segment. We're going to talk about this further.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome to Your Personal Bank Show. And well, today I'm really talking about options, and not stock market options. I'm talking about options with your money, options with your financial situation, your retirement, the money you're putting away. So here's the thing. You want to have more control of your money. How would you like to pay less taxes? How would you like to be able to get a decent return and count on that every single year consistently? Irregardless of economic situations or tax rates or anything like that. How about this? How would you like to be able to access some of your monies? Because let's say you had some debt you wanted to pay off, or you want to purchase an item, or maybe there's another investment, something you want to put your money into because you think you're going to be able to get a better return on it. But yet your money that you put away still can grow for you. In other words, remain in your control for the future and still earn some interest on it. You see, that's what your personal bank does. What we're doing is we're setting up a high cash value policy. We've got companies that have been paying 6% plus dividends for the last 25 plus years. Never miss a dividend since literally before the Civil War. And then we set up a bank line of credit where the cash in the policy is collateral for the line, and the interest the bank is charging is less than the dividends you're earning with the policy. So when you access funds from the bank line, not the policy, from the bank, you get charged interest, yes, but you're earning more than you're getting charged. That's called positive arbitrage, which means your money's still growing even though you spent it. It's really that simple. The whole concept, I just laid it out there in about a minute or two. That's how it works. And if anyone tries to complicate it any further than that, well, they just don't understand it. Because honestly, it's as simple as that. Now, I mentioned companies been paying 6% dividends, even today. That surprises people. In fact, one of the things I get when listeners reach out to me and stuff is probably one of the number one things. They're shocked. They're surprised. There's companies still paying 6% dividends. Where have they been? Folks, they've been around since before the Civil War. Okay? I think that's a good long time. Never missed a dividend. Civil War, World War II, Great Depression, you name it. That is one heck of a track record. And that's why I say when other people talk about, dividend paying stocks or find dividend bonds to pay interest and things like that, and I almost have to laugh. And I see the rates that some of these things are paying these days. And, we're a historically low interest rate environment. So many of them, the rates are terrible. It's laughable. It's ridiculous. And I'm thinking to myself, why are people bothering? Why are you bothering with that stuff? Why not just go to the granddaddy of them all? Why are you playing small ball? It's kind of like with baseball. Why are you in AAA? There's something called the big leagues. And these are insurance dividend payers companies. These are A+ rated, multi-billion-dollar companies. You recognize many of the names. I'll share them with you. I'll show you the charts. I'll show you what they've been paying. And they're paying higher dividends today and paying dividends basically longer than anybody else out there. And with more consistency. Oh, yeah, don't forget, income tax free. Oh, and with guarantees. Wait a minute. When you start comparing all that and you put it all together, folks, there is no comparison. I mean, that's just the facts. There's no other financial tool that I've seen personally. I'll just say that. And you got to understand. I'm on the radio. I've shared this with thousands of people. Well, I don't even know how many people listen to the radio, but hundreds of thousands, literally. And there's not another financial tool that I've seen with a better track record or consistency, and add on tax deferral, tax benefits, and with guarantees. You put it all together, and you're like, why are you even bothering looking anywhere else? So there is the comparisons. Just there aren't any. Plus, you got the liquidity. Plus, when you set up the policy, I know we're not doing this. One of the guys I was talking to last week even said, he goes, I'm retiring, and he goes, I'm nearing 70, and now I've been listening to you for a while, and for me to be considering life insurance at my age is just counterintuitive. I said, I get it, because we've been taught this mantra our entire lives: buy term, invest the rest, right? We've been told that over and over and over again. But here's what I want you to do for a minute. I want you to actually think a minute about the reason why. Why are you getting told that? You see, if there's companies that are paying 6% dividends with guarantees, with consistency, never missing since before the Civil War, tax-free, income tax-free, and all that, why are you being told not to look at that? It's simple. You're talking to a competitor. And maybe one of the best analogies I can give you is anyone who's a sports fan knows that the Boston Red Sox don't like the New York Yankees that well. Okay? And so if you're going to ask, what do you think about the Yankees this year? You ask a Boston fan, what do you think of the Yankees this year? What do you think the response is going to be? Probably not too favorable, right? You can apply that to any type of situation where you're talking to a competitor. You see, most financial advisors don't deal with these companies. They're not contracted, or many are not licensed, or it's just not their area of expertise. It's not their forte. They're not dealing with this area of business. So it's not in their wheelhouse. It's not even in their, many times, it's not even in their focus at all. Or it's competition. You know, you got to do what's best for you, right? And to discount this option, this option of getting dividends, solid dividends with tremendous history and tax benefits and liquidity and positive arbitrage and all the things that your personal bank brings to the table, just to discount it out of hand, that's at your own peril. That's at a disadvantage of you. Look, I only am doing this radio show for one simple reason. Well, the main reason is, I enjoy it. Let's be real. Or I wouldn't do it. But the motivation behind doing it is really that it's such a almost unknown area of the financial world to the average American that it's a mission. I feel like it's just a mission that I needed when the opportunity presented itself, that I needed to get this information out to the average folks because this is important. They need to know about this. You need to at least look at it and consider it. Okay, so contact me at yourpersonalbank.com. We'll be happy to explain it further, send you more information, see how this fits for you, and just answer your questions. Invariably, most people I talk to find that this is a very viable option for them, and it's even better than they even thought. You know, with the radio, I only have so much time, right? We got commercial breaks and everything else, and gosh, let's be real. Most people are driving or they're doing work on their computer or whatever, and so they're kind of tuning in and out, and you're catching bits and pieces. So I don't have the opportunity on the radio to really share with you all the things it can do for you. So contact me at yourpersonalbank.com to find out more.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. And, I've been talking a lot about options today. And really, and not only that, but control. Taking control back of your money. Having options in terms of how much you pay in taxes down the road. How much liquidity, how much access do you have to your money? Do you want to follow the government's rules with with all the qualified plans? That's the IRAs. 401ks, Roths, 403bs, TSPs. You realize there's a myriad of rules that involve those things. And they're constantly changing year by year. And the thing is, do you want to be subject to all those rules? My show I shared my last show, I should say. And if you didn't listen to it, again, I'm going to encourage you, go to yourpersonalbank.com, check it out, or any of the previous shows. But I talked a lot about I don't understand why. See, that's the other thing. I don't understand why people so readily give up basically their future, their financial future, subject to the whims of our federal government, to Congress. See, who created the IRA, the 401k, and the Roth? Congress. Can they make changes to those? Of course, they do it all the time. The thing is, can they change the tax rates? Of course. Do you know what the tax rates are going to be when you take the money out? Or if you're already taking the money out, do you know what the tax rates are going to be in 5 years or 10 or 20? It's impossible to answer those questions. And why so many people just automatically just willingly give up control of their money to those situations for a tax, when they were working, or right now you get a deferral on your tax. Okay, that's nice, but is that in your best interest? So you got to look at the whole picture. Particularly if you're not in a higher income scenario, deferring your tax now could be one of the worst decisions you make. Because you could end up making more later and be at a higher tax bracket. Also, tax rates could go up, so you're getting a double whammy. You know what I'm saying? You end up paying more. Why not just pay them now? Pay tax on the seed, and then it's tax-free the rest of your life on the harvest. It's the decision, should I pay taxes on the seed or the harvest? And I can't answer that question for you right now on the radio because, frankly, everybody's situation is different. But I can tell you this. very often when we analyze somebody's situation where they're looking at their income, we're looking at the amounts they're putting away or have put away already. We're looking at their current and potential future tax brackets, rates, and things like that. It's quite often that deferring the taxes now is the worst decision they're making financially. Now, why are we told to do that all the time? I talked about this earlier. You got to think about this a minute. You always think about why things are the way they are. Why we're overwhelmingly, why are we told that? Well, don't sell the government short. They're smart. They figured out some time ago that if they encourage people through tax deferrals to put some money away for the future and then got to tax it on the harvest, that basically the government would generate exponentially more tax revenue. So who's it better for in most cases? The individual or the government? In fact, studies have shown that the argument we hear all the time is, well, you're in a lower tax bracket now than you will be when you'll be in a lower tax bracket in retirement than you are when you're working. And study after study shows that somewhere upwards over 80% of Americans are in the same or higher tax bracket when they're retired, because things like Social Security and their IRA distributions are considered taxable income. So it didn't work. The reason they did it for about 80% of the folks didn't work. I also get the argument, well, if it's deferred, I can make more, let it grow, and then pay the taxes on it later. That can work, but you have to have a substantial amount of growth pretty much consistently to beat that. And here's the thing. Can you tell me what the tax rate's going to be when you do take it out? A lot of people today especially think that the tax rates are going to be higher in the future. How much higher? See, that's the great unknown. And depending on what those future rates are going to be, or brackets, or whatever changes may occur, it may completely defeat your whole purpose. See, the thing is, you don't know. And why not? I'm not saying don't put any money away in IRAs and 401ks. I've said earlier, even in this show, if you get a company match, take the free money. Don't do more than that. Why not create a tax-free bucket, one that grows income tax-free? You can access it income tax-free. You have options. If you have a taxable bucket and a tax-free bucket that you can access monies from, don't you have options now? And see, that's what it's really about. It's about giving you more options, more control over your money. So you can be smarter about your money. Your money lasts longer and goes forward. And you can enjoy your retirement more. See, that's what it's about. Not about doing what everybody else says. So stay tuned in the last segment. We're going to talk about this further.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to Your Personal Bank, and we're rounded third, and today we've been talking about creating more options for your money and, well, gaining more control. You see, do you want to stay in the system of the qualified plans? That's the IRAs, 401ks, Roths, all that, and be subject to all the rules, the whims of Congress, the tax rules, and all the other distribution rules, contribution rules, and all those kinds of things? See, I just find it shocking that so many people just so willingly fall into that and are willing to basically give up control of their money, their retirement, to the whims of Congress. I mean, I don't care what your political bent is. How many people really trust Congress? I mean, I can tell you I don't. And if 2020 has taught us anything, we've been taught that the rules can change pretty fast. Things can change really fast. And things that we thought the way they were, maybe weren't that way after all, or changed. My point is, why would you put the vast majority of your retirement into somebody else's hands and subject to their whims in terms of how much tax they're going to charge you in the future, or what rules are going to put in place on contributions or distributions or anything else for that matter? See, who created those things? Congress. Can they change the rules on them? Absolutely. Now, am I saying not to do an IRA or 401k or Roth? No, I'm not. But what I am saying is, and I run into this, and why I'm saying it is because I run into this so often. I don't think it's wise to put most, if not all, of your money there, or your long-term retirement money there. In other words, I think it's a lot more wise to create yourself some options. And the biggest thing is you're dealing with qualified plans. That's the IRA, 401ks, etc. Those are, some people call them tax hostile accounts. We all know there's you can't touch them until you're 59 and a half without a penalty, with few exceptions. Once you turn 72, you have to take money out and start paying taxes on it. There's limits on how much you can contribute. There's limits on, there's tax rules on how much you have to pay. I mean, it goes on and on and on, and it changes frequently. Why would you put yourself subject to all that? And there's a book I encourage folks to read. If you have an IRA or a 401k, you need to read this book. It's called The Power of Zero by David McKnight. I have nothing to do with this book. In fact, I've never met the author. But the book is powerful in explaining, look, if they double tax rates in the future, which they can and have done in the past, I'm talking about our federal government. Well, 2 times 0 is still 0, isn't it? In other words, if you've created a tax-free bucket, okay, of money, and they double the tax rates, is that going to impact you? 2 times 0 is 0, right? No, at least on that bucket of money. So what I'm saying is to diversify. We always talk about diversification of investments, diversification of assets. That's a common mantra out there. What I don't see very often is the diversification of tax liability. And I think most would agree with me today, that our future tax liability might be much greater in the future than it is now. Look at the government debt. Look at how much they've borrowed. Look at how much they're still printing and spending. Are they going to slow that down anytime soon? That remains to be seen, doesn't it? And I don't care who's in charge. I'm not being political about this, because for the last several decades, whoever has been in charge has been spending more than they bring in. Our federal debt keeps increasing. Eventually, that will have to be addressed, won't it? They're going to have to at least address paying the interest on the debt, right? And there's several ways to accomplish that. One of them is to spend less, which is frankly almost laughable these days. I wish it wasn't. I'm a fiscal conservative. I find our federal government spending more than it receives most of the time. I find that offensive and irresponsible. I just think it's wrong. And I think I wish there would be a movement for a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. In other words, the states and the people should get together and demand that our federal government balances its budget just like many states do every year. It does work. And to create these massive deficits, we're over 20, I think it's $22 trillion or something stupid like that. That's another whole subject. The thing is, that kind of debt can have massive effects on tax rates. And when you're talking about IRAs and 401ks, I'm not trying to scare anybody. But what I'm trying to ring the alarm bell, kind of like Paul Revere did. And he said, well, the British are coming. It's very likely taxes are coming. And if you've put yourself, or you're putting yourself in a position where you're going to have to pay taxes in the future on monies you're putting away now, that could cause you put you in a big world of hurt. And what I want you to understand is real simple. There are alternatives. There are accounts like your personal bank that you can put in and grow the money income tax free, access it to income tax free, and pass it on to your heirs income tax free. And not only that, these are monies that can be available in liquid. That's the other problem with many folks with the IRAs and 401ks, especially if they're younger. There's the penalty, but you still have even later, you still have the tax if you take a chunk out. So it really limits the ability to limits access to those funds. Even many brokerage accounts and mutual funds and things like that, those types of accounts, CDs also often have limits on how much you can take out. Or if you do, there's either annuities also. Annuities have penalties. So do CDs. Brokerage accounts, mutual funds, things like that may not, some of them have 5-year things, but they may not have a penalty. But if you take the money, you might take it out at the wrong time or they're on a low, say in the market. So you get, in essence, penalized for taking it out at the wrong time because you needed the money, right? When you have to have access, sometimes for medical reasons or various things like that, when you need the money, you need the money. And if the market's not cooperating or the economy is not cooperating at that point and you're selling on a low because you need the money, is that any different than a penalty or a tax? And the answer is no. It has to be, the right timing. So why not have something that's consistent and steady and liquid and is there, at least a portion to diversify, to eliminate that risk and eliminate that future tax risk. And the best part about your personal bank using the high cash value policy, getting the high dividends, like I said, we have companies still paying 6% today, and that's income tax free and with guarantees. And a track record of paying never missing a dividend since before the Civil War, literally. I mean, why not have a diversification of a bucket of some money over there? It just makes logical sense, and it's smart financial planning. Instead of having most, like I see so often, it's so common, where people have most, if not all of their money, in a brokerage account or the markets, and oftentimes in an IRA type of account or 401k or whatever. So not only are they subject to market risk, of course, they got future tax liability risk also. That's a lot of risk to be piling on to something that you're going to need in the future, like supplementing retirement. It's supposed to be a conservative kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's a diversification play. But it's going to be done for so many different reasons. But that's one of the big ones. Diversify, but into non-correlated assets. If you don't know what that means, go to yourpersonalbank.com. I've done entire shows on that. Look for the title, Diversification and Non-Correlated Assets. It's a very, very important concept to understand. But like I said, gain more control of your money. Give yourself more options when it comes to what the taxes are going to be in the future, things like that. And lastly, and probably most importantly, don't count on anyone else. Because particularly our federal government, who has been spending money like a drunken sailor, okay? And is going to need more money in the future, at least to cover the interest payments. And, those IRAs and 401ks are going to be an attractive target because there's a lot of money in those accounts. And it'll be an attractive target for them to increase the tax rate to capture more of that as people start taking it out, for example. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I can't predict the future. But I think any reasonable person can see that that's a very likely outcome. And to mitigate that risk, to not put yourself in that position, is just wise. And to not count on the government keeping the rules favorable for you and me. We don't know. We just don't know what's going to happen. And it's that uncertainty and that unknown that's the problem. Because here's the thing we probably do know. Are you going to need that money to supplement retirement? The answer in most cases is yes. Could you have a need for that money sooner or for other reasons? Do emergencies ever occur? Unexpected expenses, medical expenses, or do opportunities come about? You may see a situation where, hey, I could invest in this thing or this asset or whatever, and I'm confident I could really do something with it. But if your money's tied up in a brokerage account and the market's not cooperating, you don't want to touch it. If it's in an IRA or 401k, you've got taxes, maybe penalties. An annuity, you got penalties. If you've got it in the bank, it might be accessible unless it's in a CD, but it's not earning anything to speak of these days. You see my point. Why not put it in an account where it is at least getting, 5-6% dividends, tax-free, liquidity, access, use of the dollars, right? And don't forget, the biggest, as I was starting to get to, the biggest, most powerful aspect of your personal bank is by creating that account that's earning dividends, okay? And then setting up the bank line of credit, where we're going to act, the cash and the policy is the collateral for the loan. So these are super easy loans to get. It's like a one-page app. Super easy. You get asked that all the time. You access those funds from the bank, and now you get charged interest from the bank, but the interest is less than the dividends you're earning. So you're earning more and getting charged less, so you keep the difference. And the difference is about 2 to 3% on average, depending on the amount of money we're talking about. So how about still earning if you leave it alone, you probably make 5-6% dividends right now, even today. Historically higher than that. But even in this low interest rate environment, with income tax free, with guarantees, all that. But then on top of that, when you do access it through the bank line, you can spend the money and use it for other purposes and still earn 2 or 3% interest. The positive arbitrage, or the difference of what you're earning on the dividends, which is higher than what you're getting charged in the interest in the bank line. That's the power of this. And by the way, that positive arbitrage, that 2 or 3% positive arbitrage, is not only for this year, but it's every year for the rest of your life. And that's when the power really comes into play. And why folks like the gentleman I spoke to this week, who is nearing 70 and nearing retirement, is funding one of these because he wants the cash growth, access to the money, and supplement the retirement and lower his income tax. Contact me at yourpersonalbank.com for more information. I'd love to talk to you.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guest on this program do not engage in legal, accounting, or tax advice. Professional advice regarding your situation should be sought if required. Products and riders may have limitations and may not be available in all states. Excessive unpaid loans may affect performance. Distributions may become taxable if not managed properly. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be charges when replacing coverage. Compare when considering a replacement. Dividend rates and baseline of credit rates may change. Contact yourpersonalbank.com for current rates.